A Belarus government death squad was responsible for the disappearance of 3 opposition leaders 20 years ago. That was when Alexander Lukashenko started consolidating his hold in power in the former Soviet Republic. Now, those allegations come from a man who claims to have been a member of that death squad. Today, Lukashenko rules Belarus with an iron fist. The country is described as Europe's last dictatorship. In a moment, I'll talk to our correspondent who got this exclusive. But first, here's his report.
Yuri Garavski is living in a Central European country and is seeking asylum there. In a Deutsche Welle exclusive, he tells us about his time in a regime death squad in Belarus and reveals new details about a series of crimes. A number of opposition politicians in Belarus disappeared 2 decades ago, and it's still not known what happened to them. On the evening of May 7, 1999, Yuri Zakharenko parked his car here near the old firehouse in Minsk and was never seen again. At that time, the former interior minister was a leading figure in the opposition. Zakharenko and his supporters wanted to prevent the country descending into dictatorship and to remove President Alexander Lukashenko. Lukashenko had organized and won 2 controversial referendums to expand his powers and neutralize parliament. Since then, Lukashenko has ruled the country alone. Belarus is considered the last dictatorship in Europe. This reenactment of the murder of Yuri Zakharenko is based on statements made exclusively to us, DW, by Yuri Garavski. 4 members of a special military unit abducted and shot Zakharenko dead in a forest. Garavski tells us he was one of them and an accomplice to the crime, and that as a member of the armed forces he had no choice. 20 years later, he has a message for Zakharenko's family.
I offer my sincere condolences. I took part in the murder. I offer you my apologies. I can show you the burial site on a map. The rest is up to you and Belarus's law enforcement system.
Zakharenko's family is living in exile in the German town of Münster. His eldest daughter, Yelena, hears from us for the first time details of her father's abduction and murder. She calls the informant, Yuri Garavski, a man without a conscience.
It's not about him, it's about the entire system. One can't blame him. People are dependent on the system. They're forced to commit bloody crimes in its name.
Every autumn, a vigil is held in Minsk in honor of Yuri Zakharenko and the other opposition politicians who disappeared. Garavski says he also knows what happened to them. So perhaps after 2 decades, the truth about the regime death squads in Belarus is about to come to light.
That exclusive report by DW's Christian Tripper. He now joins me in the studio. Welcome, Christian. First of all, tell us, how did you find Yuri Garavski?
Well, actually, we didn't find him, but he found us. Mr. Garavski wrote an email to my colleagues in the Russian service of Deutsche Welle, claiming that he had some interesting things to tell about these disappearances 20 years ago, and that's how we got in touch with him.
So how do you know that he was telling the truth and that he is the man who he claims to be?
First of all, we tried to clear the identity of Mr. Garavski. That included some data-based research, but also inquiries on the ground in his hometown, Minsk. Then we met with him several times, conducting an overall of very long interviews in which we again and again repeated the key questions we had, working out even minor contradictions. And with this evidence, with this material, we went to some legal experts in Europe. There are a few of them who are familiar with these cases in Belarus.
And why did he actually, what were his motives? Why did he actually write an email to Deutsche Welle's Russian service? Why did he leave Belarus?
Well, he told us that he wanted to go clear, that he wanted to remove a stone from his soul, which is fair enough. But it might well be that there are more or perhaps even other motives, that there are people behind him who might have told him to flee to the West and to speak out. But when we did the research, we never found any facts that hinted in that direction, so this is open to mere speculation.
And of course, Lukashenko, as we mentioned, is described as the last dictator in Europe. It's a very, very authoritarian regime from what everyone says. What will these revelations eventually lead to, do you think?
Years ago, the Council of Europe had been investigating the situation in Belarus and especially these disappearances. In their 2004 report, they talk about a conspiracy of high-ranking Belarusian officials. And it might well be that the General Assembly in Strasbourg now reopens the Minsk file and renews the mandate to do research on the ground.
So this could take a fair bit of time, this investigation, to confirm what you've just revealed to us in your exclusive report. Will there be any broader implications, these allegations at the moment, broader implications for the government of Belarus?
There might be a lot of political implications. Belarus is a country pretty isolated in Europe because of the horrible situation of human rights and the very dictatorial way President Lukashenko runs his country. But Belarus, for some years now, is working hard to be accepted again as a partner in Europe. And all these efforts could suffer a setback now in the light of this new evidence. And at the same time, it needs to be pointed out that Belarus' big neighbor in the east, Russia, often a predominant neighbor, is trying to expand its influence in Belarus, and perhaps these revelations even play into the hand of the Kremlin because they weaken the stance of Belarus in negotiations which are going on right now.
So huge implications, a lot of open questions. Christian Tripper, thank you so much for bringing us that report as well as your insights into this story. Thank you very much.